So Roman Reigns finally turned heel, and I never really thought about it, but without the live crowds, this is actually the perfect time to start taking these kinds of chances. At best, it'll prove to be successful. At worst, they can just disregard everything that happened this year as just being one long nightmare through a cinematic segment or something. Either way, the best part about this is, at least now, Smarks can stop pretending to hate Roman Reigns just to be cool. And even the ones that do still hate him are just going to end up praising him for being such a great heel, so it's a win-win either way. This is also the best way that they can set Roman Reigns up to be the top face of the company down the road, because you know Smarks are going to start cheering him now just because he's a heel, so when he eventually turns face again, they won't have to worry about them fake booing him anymore. Ironically, this is kind of just like The Rock back in the day when everyone hated him until he turned heel, only Roman Reigns is far more talented and charismatic than that jobber ever was, so he'll obviously be a way bigger star. Sasha and Bayley also lost the tag team titles, and I'm a little mixed on that, only because of who they lost the belts to. It really should have been the Riot Squad. The way they built up that whole story with Ruby Riott on the Iconics was the perfect way to set them up to be the ones to take the titles. On the plus side though, Bayley turned on Sasha Banks this week, so it looks like that match is finally going to happen after all. Although, judging from some of the responses to my question of the day last week, majority of you guys think that it's already too late for Sasha Banks anyway. Someone made an interesting point in that Sasha is basically the Dolph Ziggler of the Divas division at this point, and that's actually kind of true. She's basically been a mid-carder this whole time and has had almost no success in the main event, no matter how many times they've pushed her. So at this point, people have gotten tired of it and they've just kind of stopped caring. Evie's Mania, who by the way is another great channel that you should all subscribe to right now, made another interesting point about how Sasha's momentum has kind of been dead since 2016. And when you think about it, it's kind of true. Ever since WrestleMania 32, Sasha never really caught fire again like she did in 2015. And then with that premature title win and all those flip-flops with Charlotte, that made her look more of a joke than anything, and it really killed anyone's interest in seeing her be champion anymore. Now, in my humble and always correct opinion, I feel like Sasha's done a lot to really rejuvenate her career as of lately, and I care a lot about her now than I ever have before, so I think there is still some potential there. Just depends on what they do next. Now apparently Sasha is going to take some time off for now, so that's probably the best thing that they could have done to delay this feud for now. So I guess now the question is, do you really wait until WrestleMania season to bring her back, or have it culminate at Survivor Series, or on a random episode of Main Event, or what? Because she probably has to win the title from Bayley as soon as she comes back, or else it won't really matter anymore. But then that brings up, when is the right time to do that? There's also the question of, if it is months from now, can they really keep the title on Bayley the whole time? Because if she does lose it to Sasha before she comes back, it won't mean anything when Sasha wins it. But if she keeps it all the way until WrestleMania, then Naomi fans might just start peacefully protesting WWE by burning the Thunderdome to the ground. Mickie James is actually getting the main event push already, which is awesome. You know, one of the benefits of the lack of live crowds has been that this is really their chance to make anyone a star now, because they're not being held back by lame crowds that don't cheer anyone, or Smarks hijacking shows to push people that suck. Plus, now that Sasha and Bayley are gone, Mickie is probably the biggest star in the Raw division right now. Come to think of it, this is the first time that the division has been horsewoman free in 5 years. So right now is the best time to actually start pushing different divas and having different feuds for once. WWE has just been relying on the horsewomen to keep the division alive this whole time. Now's their chance to test just how well the division can do without them. So I just wanted to make a video response to an anti-Bella video because, it's always fun to prove how stupid these arguments are. Now, the person I'm responding to actually is a subscriber of mine. So Ashley, if you're watching this, you brought this on yourself. You should have known better after watching my videos.
It's this guy who is just really a big fan of Bella twins, and he likes to overrate them.
Simply stating the fact that Nikki Bella is a good wrestler is in no way overrating her.
And if you all have been watching wrestling for a long time, you all know that Nikki Bella is nowhere near the diva, the female wrestler that Asia Lee was.
So notice how they all start off with this basic premise. AJ is great, the Bellas suck, end of discussion. But can they actually back that up?
When the Bellas first got here, they were in filler matches with no storylines, no build-ups. Unlike AJ Lee, when she first got here,
So your argument is that AJ is a better wrestler because she was pushed more than them. So was Sable a better wrestler than Molly Holly?
she has star power. She's a draw, unlike Nikki.
So I know Smarks hate to admit it, but the Bellas were undoubtedly bigger draws than AJ ever was. That's not even debatable. More people in the real world know who the Bellas are compared to AJ. Just because Smarks like AJ more doesn't mean that she was more popular in the grand scheme of WWE history.
I mean, the fact that they're even in the Hall of Fame before AJ Lee is just like, it kind of just really disgusts me, because AJ Lee has actually accomplished a lot of stuff in her career. What had the Bella Twins accomplished? I'll wait for all of you fans out there.
3-time champions, 2-time Slammy winners, longest Divas champion, #1 wrestler on PWI, main evented Raw, main evented ECW, main evented SmackDown, main evented SummerSlam, main evented Evolution, total Divas, total Bellas, top 10 merchandise sellers. You get the picture.
The only reason Bella Twins were pushed to the moon was because of John Cena and Daniel Bryan. And I'm going to get a lot of hate for saying that, but it's the truth.
Okay, here comes this one. Notice how this argument doesn't connect to what you were just saying. You were just arguing that the Bellas didn't accomplish anything, and now you're saying they were over-pushed because of John Cena? Which is it?
They haven't really done anything. Yeah, Nikki Bella came back from an injury with her neck. And what was she doing when she came back? Nothing. She wasn't pushed for another title. She was in filler matches against Carmella and Natalya that weren't bad, but they weren't the best matches.
Yeah, that's kind of awfully generous of Nikki to step aside and give other divas a spotlight, considering that Cena could have made her champion at any time, right? Unlike AJ, who always hogged up the title picture and never lost a feud.
If AJ Lee came back if AJ Lee came back tomorrow to WWE, she would be pushed to the moon. Pushed to the moon, because she has potential unlike the rest.
Yeah, exactly. When Nikki comes back, she does it to put other people over. Every time AJ has come back, it was to put herself over. That's not necessarily a good thing.
And then they get upset because people were judging them because of their looks. You can't help what you see in people. If you see a pretty face in WWE, you see a pretty face.
So I'll end on this note, because this is really what it all boils down to. Bella haters are just sexist. That's just a fact. If you ask any one of them what their biggest issue is, it's always something Barbie doll. I dare you to find one hater that doesn't have that as one of the reasons why they hate them. That's why you can't debate them, because they just can't see the Bellas as anything other than sex objects. You know, they can hide behind their fandom of other divas all they want, but at the end of the day, if you hate one person just because of the color of their skin, then it doesn't matter how nice you are to the rest of them, you're still a racist. Bella haters are sexist. Change my mind. But anyways, yeah, Ashley, if you're watching this, I encourage you to step your game up. Don't fall for all these lazy and recycled excuses and arguments like everybody else does. If you really want to prove AJ haters how great she is, then do so by making substantive points. Point to her best matches in comparison to other divas. Highlight her best in-ring qualities like her agility, her character work, her selling. Compare how consistently good her mic work was compared to the hit or miss quality of everyone else. You get the point. Don't just make claims, back them up with examples that even haters can't argue with. So now it's time for the Q&A portion of the video. What are your thoughts on AEW versus NXT? I don't think it really matters. They get around the same number of viewers every week anyway, so it's not that much of a big deal when one gets like 10 viewers more than the other. There's nothing at stake. There's no consequence. There's no rewards. AEW isn't going to put NXT out of business. So I just think it's funny when I see now even wrestlers that actually work for AEW try to make a big deal about it. They even get butthurt when they lose and still try to claim victory over the demographics or whatever, which is basically what every sore loser does. Oh, yeah, bro? So what if you beat me? I still have more STDs than you do. Like, really, who cares that much? Is TNT going to boot them off the network if they lose one week? Is Ted Turner going to call Shane McMahon to come put his name on a contract? It doesn't matter. Total Bellas is a bigger threat to them than they are to each other. What diva would you ship Randy Orton with? I'm not really into the whole shipping thing, but I mean, if I had to do it, then I guess you would want someone as stuck up as Randy Orton is himself. In which case, probably Tessa Blanchard. I mean, that's another spoiled third-generation superstar with an ego as big as their hatred of black people, so I think they'd be a perfect match for each other. How do you feel about the YouTube channel Ring the Bell? Honestly, I'm a little sad that we're not the only YouTube channel for Divas content anymore, but other than that, these guys are great. They're pretty much like the TMZ of women's wrestling. Like literally. Their style, their presentation, their tone, their editing, their colorful personalities. It's literally TMZ, which is actually perfect for a women's wrestling channel. The audience for TMZ/reality TV gossip stuff is basically the same. That's why Total Divas is so successful. So in that sense, they do their job better than anyone else. Are you sad that MTV Scream is over? I'm more so upset that we never got a proper conclusion to the first season. The whole reason that season 3 was only 6 episodes was so they can hurry up and wrap everything up. But then MTV decided that they wanted a new season just so they could kill more black people, which I think is pretty racist, but whatever. So it's unfortunate that we'll never get a proper conclusion to that season, but since there is no official ending, I'd like to believe that my theory video is still canon, which, if you haven't watched it yet, the quick summary of that is Emma's dad was the original killer who framed Brandon James, and that Audrey killed Bella Thorne and Piper blackmailed her to help set Emma up. I think everything in that video still holds up as making the most sense of everything in that series. Thoughts on MTV Scream Season 3? I'm probably going to do a full review of this season for Halloween, but in general, I liked it for the most part. Although I didn't like how they completely crapped all over the movies by pretending that the ghost face mask is just this random, obscure Halloween costume, as if the Stab movies aren't the biggest blockbusters in the Scream universe. So that was the worst part about this season, was that they tried to give the original Ghostface a new backstory. You already brought back the original mask and voice actor. That's all you needed. Also, the fact that there was only a cast of like 5 characters made it really easy to predict who the killers were. And just in general, there was very little about this season that really felt like Scream. Even with the original mask and voice actor, it felt like you could have just replaced Ghostface with any random jobber, and it would have fit just as well as another season of Slasher. Thoughts on former WCW Champion Dewey being confirmed for Scream 5? I mean, out of everyone on the Scream cast, you had to know that regardless what happened, former WCW Champion Dewey was going to be a part of it. He's just one of those guys that's basically a mark for the franchise, so he'd sign on to do anything that they give him, whether that's a Scream in space or a Scream XXX, or even if they wanted to recast his character in the role of Tatum, he'd do whatever they want him to do just out of pure love for the series. So I think we all expected that he would be the first one on board. And even if he was the only one on board, it'd still be worth it just to see what they do with his character. So before I go, I just want to make a real quick comment video response to one of our subscribers who responded back when I asked for feedback and criticisms. And he basically says that he's tired of our broken promises. And I am too. Trust me, whenever I say that I'm planning on making a video or something, I always have the intention of doing it, but then something always gets in the way or I just lose the motivation. So I can understand how subscribers would get sick of us always asking them to contribute to our Q&As and stuff when we rarely ever follow through with any of that. So I can see how that would turn a lot of people off from really trusting anything else that we say we're going to do. And then the random absences that we're always taking so people don't have a reason to feel like they need to stay tuned if we can just leave at any time. That's why I'm thankful for anyone that has stuck around in spite of all of that. As long as there are people that support this channel, we have reason to keep going. And honestly, it feels like right now this channel and the people that still watch are probably some of the best things that I have left. And I regret taking that for granted. So one idea I had was to make more single topic videos, since it seems like that'd be a lot easier than trying to cram everything that I want to talk about into one long video. It also helps speed up the editing process, which is probably the biggest time waster, so you can probably start expecting more of those coming soon.